Hello! In this video we'll be covering the history of the Dameron family, which includes Poe Dameron, Kes Dameron, Shara Bey, and their close friend L'ulo Lampar. Poe Dameron is likely the most known member of the family, the skillful, hot-headed pilot who became the leader of the resistance towards the end of the war with the First Order. But he was also the descendant of two people who fought against the Empire in the rebellion. His parents had actually personally known Han Solo, Leia Organa, and Luke Skywalker, as they had fought alongside them during the rebellion against the Empire. Kes Dameron and Shara Bey had been a part of the alliance to restore the Republic for years, but they had actually met each other and started dating before they had joined the rebellion. During the Imperial era, Shara Bey was a crest racer on the planet Galator 3, and was considered one of the newer racers that ran the circuits. One day, Kes Dameron and several of his friends visited the planet in order to celebrate one of his friends getting married. Kes decided that it would be fun to bet his last few credits on one of the races, and selected a crest racer at random to bet on. It turned out that that random racer was Shara Bey, who then went on to win the race that Kes had bet on. So, after she had won, Kes went to go meet this mysterious racer that had just made him a bunch of money, where he then met Shara. Cut ahead to the Galactic Civil War, and Kes Dameron and Shara Bey are married and have a child together named Poe. While the two of them were fighting against the Empire, Poe was back home, presumably being looked after by a friend of theirs, because I doubt Kes and Shara would leave an infant unattended while they went off to fight a tyrannical government. The two of them helped build the rebel base on Hoth, and both helped reunite the separated rebel fleets after the evacuation from the base. Kes was a pathfinder in the Rebel Alliance, taking part in several ground operations including the mission on Endor. Shara Bey was a pilot that flew with Green Squadron. She flew an A-Wing in most of her operations, and she also fought at the Battle of Endor. After the Battle of Endor, Shara and Kes further assisted Leia, Han, and Luke in their own endeavors. At this time, Han Solo was still leading the Pathfinders, and had been tasked with hunting down Imperial remnant outposts. Kes was a part of Han's squad. Meanwhile, Shara assisted Leia in protecting Naboo from Operation Cinder, as well as helped Luke recover the remains of a Force-sensitive tree from an Imperial base. Sometime soon after all of this, Shara and Kes realized it was time for them to reunite with their son. Considering that the Emperor was dead and that the Empire itself was fragmented and weak, they both felt it would be okay to return home, as did several of their friends in the Rebel Alliance. One of Shara's fellow pilots, L'ulo Lampar, was actually the one that submitted the paperwork necessary to help Shara and Kes muster out of the Alliance and return to their home on Yavin 4. Additionally, the Force-sensitive tree that Shara helped Luke retrieve from the Imperial base was gifted to them to plant in their own yard. Now, L'ulo Lampar was a very close friend of Shara and Kes. He had flown with Shara in Green Squadron for a long time, and had also assisted them in reuniting the rebel fleets after the Battle of Hoth. He'd also moved to Yavin 4 after the Galactic Civil War was over, and served with Shara Bey in the Yavin Civilian Defense Force. There, on Yavin, the Dameron family lived in relative peace for many years. Kes tended to their farm, and Shara taught a young Poe Dameron how to fly in her old A-Wing. Unfortunately, many years later, when Poe was about 8 years old, Shara Bey died. The circumstances surrounding her death are unknown right now, but what is confirmed is that she had died on Yavin 4 while piloting her A-Wing. Her death left a huge impact on Kes, Poe, and L'ulo, and a rift began to form between the two Dameron men. Poe and Kes argued a lot after this, as Kes became a bit reclusive and was very protective of Poe. Poe, on the other hand, was very adventure-hungry, yearning to leave Yavin 4 to journey amongst the stars, a trait that he got from his mother. L'ulo tried to help both of them during this tough time. He was a close friend to Kes and did what he could to help him, and he essentially became another family member, taking on a bit of an uncle role to Poe. Poe wasn't able to sit still long enough though, and at age 16 he ran away from home and unknowingly joined up with the Spice Runners of Kijimi, a ruthless upstart criminal organization that was taking advantage of the Empire's fall and the void left in the criminal underworld. The Pike Syndicate had become weak by these events, and the Spice Runners of Kijimi were capitalizing on that absence. Poe had, intentionally and accidentally, joined them when he was looking for passage off of Yavin 4. A group of these Spice Runners had been on the run from the New Republic Security Bureau and were in the need of a pilot, and it just so happened that Poe was a great pilot. So, looking to finally escape his home planet and journey amongst the stars, Poe took his chance and aided the Spice Runners in their escape from the New Republic. He'd then worked with the Spice Runners of Kijimi for about a year, including Zori Bliss, the daughter of the head of the organization, Zeva Bliss. Poe and Zori went on several raids and heists together, targeting other criminal organizations in an attempt to bolster the wealth and reputation of the Spice Runners of Kijimi. Now, Poe wasn't totally on board with the Spice Runners. He'd realized very quickly that he'd made a mistake joining this gang, but he stuck with them for about a year despite this, mainly because he and Zori had become very close. They confided in each other and had developed a romantic relationship. However, this relationship was not enough to keep Poe in the Spice Runners much longer, and when he had the chance to leave about a year after joining them, he took that chance. About 5 years after that, he finally returned home to Kes and L'ulo on Yavin 4. Soon, when Poe was old enough, he joined up with the New Republic, serving in the Small Defense Fleet. He was eventually given command of his own squadron, but when the New Republic failed to acknowledge the growing threat of the First Order, he joined up with Leia Organa and the Resistance, and quickly became one of, if not, the best pilot in the faction. L'ulo Lampar would also join up with the Resistance sometime later and serve with Poe in their efforts to thwart the First Order. It's currently unknown what happened to Kes back on Yavin 4, but I imagine that L'ulo had gone to join the Resistance to look after Poe in his place. Unfortunately, on one of their missions, L'ulo was shot down in a space battle with the First Order, and a funeral was held for him shortly after at the Resistance base, where Poe delivered a eulogy. Poe, of course, though, went on to help defeat the First Order once and for all, much like his parents helped defeat the Empire.